Hi, everybody. Um, there's a couple of videos I was looking at that I wanted to go over. Let's see. I'm gonna do them in separate videos, but the first one I'll do here is Russell Brand. I'm getting a little bit faster and putting this stuff together. Not much, but a little bit. Okay, so Russell Brand, massive grifter, that's with Piers Morgan, and that's about allegations, prison, that these are the sexual assault allegations against him. What I'll really be kind of talking about that, uh, at least what I want to talk about principally, is the same, he has the same lawyer as Prince Andrew, Andrew Brettler. Big mistake. And I hope Andrew Brettler will listen to this and Russell Brand will listen to this. Because Andrew Brettler really hung his client out to dry, Prince Andrew. This gets into with the Tyler Robinson case. Uh, there's a lot of the podcasters who have been doing a lot of research. I think it's a John Bray who contacted the lawyers. Now, are the lawyers using any of that information to defend the client? Because if a lawyer, the whole thing I've been doing for 20 years, one of the things which has been one of the principal arenas in lawyer negligence is under the question, does a lawyer have an obligation if they have knowledge that is, uh, exculpatory for their clients? Aren't they obligated to present it to the courts? I mean, where does, don't they have an obligation to provide the best defense their clients? Because one of the issues is the lawyers, they will be, their client is usually a one-time deal, unless, like you're a billionaire and you're going to be a serial client. But on the most part, your client's going to be a one-time deal, maybe a two-time deal, but a one-time deal. But the other lawyers, the prosecutor, if it's a criminal case, and the judges, you got to keep a good working relationship with these people. And this is, nepotism is the name of the game. Nobody has integrity. Nobody has honor. I mean, it's as one of the first lawyers I met with in Madrid. She told me that I was stupid and I was naive to think that there was something wrong with committing perjury in court or falsifying documents, that it was done all the time and it was normal and I was stupid. I mean, I was sitting there, I was like, don't, I mean, I could believe how horribly evident, written in hand, my ex-husband had falsified the financial statements. I literally couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. I mean, well, I couldn't believe he was that stupid, but then again, I could, because my entire marriage was, in fact, the last thing that I said to him before, and this was shortly before leaving Spain, but it was on the phone. But I told him, I said, tell me what you've done. I'll get you out of it. I mean, he's the only one I want to keep out of prison. But anyway, I digress. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And she's like, I'm stupid. I'm the stupid one. I mean, I thought I was going to get to the States and go, you cannot believe what they're pulling. And all the other ladies said, welcome to the club. Victim turned activist. Well, if they would work together, then we wouldn't be here. And of all of the experts in academia and all of the goddamn lawyers out there, only thing that lawyers care about is money. Money, 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 money. They are, they're amongst, I think, the scum of the scum. When you get amongst the 10, see, the thing is the one percenters, they wouldn't be able to get away with what they're doing if the 10 percenters weren't so corrupt. So anyway, that's a bit of a synopsis with what we'll be getting into. And real quick, after that, I'm going to look at Zach Costello about Tucker Carlson right after Charlie. This will be going back to how Tucker Carlson reacted right after Charlie Kirk's death. And then finally, it's Charlize Theron overcame her family dark past. So this gets into the whole feminist, and I'm getting really pissed off at this. In a nutshell, I'm like, if anybody hasn't seen the movie Peppermint, some fabulous, fabulous martial arts. Jennifer, what's her name? She was married to Ben Affleck. Jennifer, what's her face? So, excellent, excellent martial arts. I mean, whoever did the choreography on that, chapeau. But the thing is okay, I guess this drug cartel comes and they kill her husband and her kids. So she's going to become this martial arts and a spy and, and an assassin, a hit woman, and go and kill them and take them out. And I was like, that's not my style. Like, I'm not going to use my bronze. As I say, I love the martial arts, but, like when I first started up on Capitol Hill in 1981, when I was 17, there were no security whatsoever. No security. Now, after the January 6th, it looked like a freaking fortress. But the first bomb and terrorist attack up there was in the Capitol. I think it was the Senate chambers, and it was a bunch of feminists. See, I'm like, excuse me, I don't see how making women as violent as men physically and sexually, because now we got the cougars, and I do believe that there is growing pedophilia amongst the women. So yeah, I don't see how that's progress. So anyway, that's kind of where I'll be getting in with the Charlize Theron and how she, is dealing with having a violent father by all of these action movies. I don't get it, but we'll look over that. Okay, so let's listen to, I'm pretty sure I already did this. Yep, okay.
The shine's come off.
You only became a Christian 7 months after the allegations were made public. You worked out that this could give you some kind of cover. You know there are people who think you're basically just a massive grifter.
No, that's what they say about you, actually. Piers,
good.
Calm down and slow down.
It's a serious question.
I want you to calm down and slow down.
This sense that you were somehow singled out, targeted deliberately. A lot of people think that's, honestly, bullshit.
I can't actually find the verse that I had that day.
You were an atheist.
And what are you going to be next?
Well, yes.
A Muslim?
That's what some
a Jew?
people...
A Scientologist?
That's what some people think.
Hitler? What do you think about Hitler?
Russell Brand means many things to many people. He's the boisterous comic with a silver tongue and a savage wit. He's the eccentric British movie star with big words and even bigger hair. To some, he's a fearless truth seeker. To others, an oddball conspiracist. But whether he's reviled or revered, and it's usually one or the other, almost everybody finds him fascinating. And in recent years, his mutual embrace of MAGA in America has kept people guessing. So too has the very public conversion to Christianity, which forms the subject of his new book. And surrounding it all, of course, are the very grave allegations that he's now fighting. all of which will make for, I'm sure, a very interesting, uncensored interview. Russell Brand joins me now. Russell, good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
It's sort of weird to see you in this context because I first interviewed you in 2006, 20 years ago. We sat and did an uproarious interview for GQ. I'll come to that in a moment. We did another big one for ITV, for my life story show about your whole extraordinary life. We did a big one at CNN here in New York when your divorce from Katy Perry was just coming through. So I feel like I've been around your world, your orbit, and I've seen you at lots of events and things along the way as well. But I don't really know you. Like, I know a bit about you. And I know you...
Okay, you see how Piers Morgan explained how they have a long history and they've been in the same world, the same entertainment world for a long time. The thing is Lady Harvey, or Harvey, I guess she calls herself, she told Piers Morgan on the panel discussion that about the release of the Epstein files and the whole thing about Prince Andrew, because she's one of the few. She and Lady Colin Campbell and myself, I think, are really the only ones who have defended Prince Andrew under I mean, I'm Lady Colin Campbell agree that this is not, or Virginia Giuffre, at least it was not pedophilia. Because that's in the case of Prince Andrew, that's the only one. There's Virginia Giuffre, that's the only one, you know, that I've heard about or know anything about. And, you know, I've said from the beginning, first it landed the standing and cause in New York courts, and it, you know, it didn't come under pedophilia. My understanding until recently, the recent release of the Epstein files was Jeffrey Epstein, just as Trump would say, liked them young, which was post-pubescent, but not prepubescent, which is pedophilia. I believe Lady Harvey agrees with us on there, but she's like Prince Andrew, you know, he didn't do anything wrong. He wouldn't have ever done anything. You know, he would have never been with a younger woman. So anyway, the what cracked me up was how Piers Morgan looked just, you know, so uncomfortable when Lady Harvey said, Piers, you're in the Epstein files. Everybody who was anybody in the jet set of London, New York, LA, Paris is going to be in the Epstein files. It's the jet set upper crust that you see all the time on the red carpet, and everybody is, you know, the paparazzi are chasing after, and all of the film festivals and all of it. Davos, the spring meetings, the IMF World Bank spring meetings we've just had in DC. They have the spring meetings, the annual meetings, and then there's the Davos World Economic Forum. Those are their three big meetings, and you know, that's party hardy, party hardy. Food and drink is flowing all over the place. Everybody's got their hotels, and everybody's having their extramarital affairs. When I started at the IMF in 2009 at the Family Association, the spouses told me about that. And then I heard it from the secretaries when I worked at the IMF later on. So, you know, like this is also why I just put in the video that I posted, you know, the whole thing about going after Prince Andrew. The latest accusation about excessive spending to go to the World Economic Forum at Davos. I said, of course that's excessive. That's ridiculous. But that's not on Prince Andrew. I've been telling these assholes for years and years that the day that the taxpayers find out how much money is being wasted by these assholes. Because believe me, it's not the best and the brightest, it's the brown nosers. You don't get in if you're not a brown noser, and if you say anything and any of these little bitches don't like, because, oh Lord, HR, the feminists and the minorities, they have had control of these organizations from the beginning. And in the HR, I've got two pending law school suits, one against the spouses, and then after against these other little bitches. But I can't find a lawyer um to go up against anybody. Even the district attorney, when Ed Martin came in, he's the Eagle Forum, Phyllis Schlafly, uh, and Janine Pito. Yeah. So see, nobody's going to drain the swamp. So anyway, as I say, these people, this is why I left Washington at the end of the 80s. I wanted nothing to do with these people snorting cocaine all over the place. Party hardy, party hardy. I mean, everybody was like, I guess they thought I was crazy giving up those, super stellar career, the dream job everybody dreams about in working in finance. I was there for the 87 collapse. I'd given up a dream job up on Capitol Hill that they make movies about because I was disgusted by what I saw up there. That's also when American taxpayers find out how much that wasting and party hardy. They already know none of them are doing their jobs. Guess what they're doing all the time? It's not just having sex. Food and drink flow. Oh, Lordy Lord. I mean, you could feed every single homeless person in this country with all the food that they waste in this city. Just on all shit that alone. So let's go on. I just loved it. Piers Morgan, when Lady Harvey said, "You're in the Epstein files," he was so nervous. I was like, because see, question is not if you're in the Epstein files. Did you do something wrong? Because there are some people who, innocent bystanders, few and far between, but they are there.
In a media.
I know. I was an innocent bystander. Yeah, I'll watch here from, this is the other thing. I was like, oh, you guys, you laugh at me. I was a trad wife. I was a stay-at-home mom. They all say, you missed the boat. You missed the boat. Go jump off a bridge when I come back to DC in 2009. I'm like, y'all, the boat that you got on is a Titanic. And I'm at the dock holding the booty. God. And believe me, the people in this town are stupider and stupider and stupider.
Context. I don't really know you. I wouldn't consider myself to be your friend or somebody that has an intimate knowledge of what you're really like. And one of the more interesting things about you, I would say, is that I don't know where the truth lies about these allegations. And I don't want to try and find out whether my instincts are one way or another. We can't talk about what's coming in October, the case, for legal reasons. It wouldn't feel right to me anyway to talk about it because you've got to go through the due process. But as we sit here, you're innocent till proven guilty. I believe fundamentally in that principle. You're entitled to due process. And to those who will criticise, as I'm sure some will, the mere fact I'm giving you a platform and interviewing you, I say that this matters, that due process matters. The presumption of innocence until proven guilty matters. And so
I'd like to know why. It's depends on whose case we're talking about, whether the presumption of innocence matters. What about the presumption of innocence for Tyler Robinson? What about the presumption of innocence of Brent Andrew? What about the presumption of innocence of me? I mean, my favorite in my divorce was the accusation that I was a drug addict and a juvenile delinquent from the time that I was 12 years old. That I went to reform school at 14. I went to Cobham Hall in England at 14, then to Foxcroft School in Virginia. Um, if well, yeah, 15 to 18. I mean, I was just when I saw my husband put that in, I was like, no, you gotta be kidding me, right? But no, that's what the courts say. I mean, so I'm like, okay, fine. You guys want to play it that way? Well, a Foxcroft, Cobham, y'all who are charging $70,000 a year, you got a jurisprudence that calls you a, a school for juvenile delinquents. Screw you, asshole. See, it's so. I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous what they are allowing going on in the courts. I mean, I don't know how many times I've explained to lawyers and litigants if you lie to the courts, if you file a case to extort people, just to get money. I mean, that's also happened to me from our landlord. I told her, I said, this is extortion. And I told the lawyer, I said, if you assist her in attempted extortion, I'm going to come after you as accessory. She was like, fine. I could not believe it. Could not believe it. These courts are out of control.
The context of that, I'm very happy to talk to you. But given I've known you so long, my first question is just, how are you feeling about the fact that in a few months' time, in a southeast London courtroom with 12 jurors sitting there, you're going to basically, over a period of about 2 months, go through a process which could end up with you going to prison for a long period of time if you're convicted. It's hard to imagine on a human level a more tumultuous thing to happen to you, not even given what you've been through in your life. So how are you feeling about it?
Tumultuous is a perfect word because it is like a storm. And sometimes I feel like I'm comfortable in the eye of the storm where there can be calm and at least the capacity to observe. And at other times it feels all-consuming and frightening and pressurizing, like a storm also would be, in almost every conceivable way. I was just thinking, as you did that introduction, I reckon you write your stuff yourself. Do you write the introduction?
I have a writer, actually.
Oh, well, when you sort of the sort of variation that was introduced, like he's revered or reviled, and sometimes I feel like I'm all those things, like a truth teller or silver tongue comic. And wow, I think it's a really good place to begin. One, how are you feeling? And also the principle of the presumption of innocence, because I think we are living in a hazy, fluxy time where people are very uncertain about truth in the broadest possible way. People are very uncertain about information in a way that feels like we're all navigating a quicksand and a new territory and a new terrain. And what I'm most interested in and what feels resonant to me, and I enjoy and appreciate at least your declaration of a kind of a lack of intimacy. And the reason for the lack of intimacy is I feel that in a way, Piers, because we're both English, we're around the same age, and we've both been in and around media, I sort of see in you this kind of, and don't take it because I'm going to play exactly the same thing to myself, this kind of cockroach power of like moving through these dreadful, dreadful worlds. And somehow here you still are online with your own show, riding the wave of how media is operating now. People don't get to do that if they're a nobody. People don't get to do that if they don't have, I would say, certainly tenacity and strength. But when I was a kid, I used to watch that show like most people did, a lot of people at least, The Word. And I remember you being on there, you were young, man. I bet you was 30. I think it was even when you were still showbiz at Bazaar,
Yeah,
which was The Sun there, prior to being the Mirror editor. And I remember my mate at the time, we were like potheads and that, like saying, I like him. He was saying, when we're famous, because we weren't, and he still isn't, God love him though, but why not? Because that's another thing about when you move through many worlds. You see, well, who are the people that make it? Who are the ones that get churned up? Who are the ones that get elevated? Who are the ones that get destroyed? Who are the ones that get investigated? Who are the ones that don't? Who are the ones where the presumption of innocence is retained? Who are the ones where the presumption of innocence is stripped away? And my mate, he went, I like that, Piers Morgan. And I liked you too. Just as a person on the TV, on The Word, sat behind a panel, probably judging some audacious and absurd thing, because The Word was all about people exposing their genitals and sort of the late night vulgarity. It was also sort of a kind of TV masterpiece, wasn't it, really? Anyway, then I would read The Sun every day. I would read The Sun every day and read your showbiz columns. I kind of really liked that. And then when I sort of saw how you had maneuvered through these worlds, becoming Mirror editor as a very young man, weren't you, in your 30s? And I know that Rupert Murdoch, that Mephistophelian figure, that timeless man, about whom someone once told me, because I go, tell me something unique about Murdoch. Why is he the person he is? And this person goes, he lives like he's never going to die. And if some decision don't go his way, he's patient and he's cool. Oh, the merger's not worked out. It will work out. That's the power that a man can have to, in the case of Rupert Murdoch, one would say, influence significantly the trajectory of a nation, even in matters such as elections or wars. And so, in a sense, Piers, of course, as like Russell Brand from Grey's Essex, some bloke who was a crackhead and a heroin addict who married Katy Perry, who's now really just a married dad of three, but also...
I mean, this is another thing. Like, the only people who are in power now were crackheads or drug addicts, like sexual deviants, all of these reformed addicts. And respectable people are like, well, no, you're not welcome because you haven't suffered enough. You have to suffer and overcome your suffering to be welcome in the game. I'm like, well, guess what? I have suffered enough. I just don't cry and bitch about it. Well, sometimes I do. But not, this is one of I mean, oh my God, this was one of the things that just angered me so much in Spain. The ladies in my neighborhood didn't want to deal with any unpleasantness, and they said, "Oh, go to all of oh yeah, there's lots of nonprofits in Madrid. They'll help you and all that." And there was even one in Villanueva La Cañada, un centro de género, and yeah, so I went to a mall. It was a bunch of bullshit, a bunch of nice offices with lots of pamphlets. Yeah, some ladies sitting around having coffee. Oh, I loved one place in Madrid. It was right near where our apartment had been right before we got married when we were first together. Um, and so let's see, I think there was like 3 or 4 nonprofits with that address. Oh, it was impressive. You went in and there was like all of these rooms, one after another, one after another. And when I got to the back room, there was a bunch of ladies sitting around a table having coffee. And I was like, oh, here, I'm whatever. Oh, yeah, there's some pamphlets over there. Have a nice day. And then let's see, Amnesty International told me that uh, human rights violations only happen in Darfur or Sudan. When it was their reports who said estimated I had about 1/4 of 1% chance of survival as with a violent husband during a divorce. I was like, oh well, thanks a lot. Yeah, my consulate, not I have my American and the French, not much any better. Yeah, so it's all bullshit. But anyway, I digress. Uh, but it's like, excuse me. I mean, that's another. And then I get to the States. I'm like, you all are full of shit. We don't need a shoulder to cry on. We need nonprofits. If you exist, either, you're buying baseball bats and uniforms for the kids in your community, something like that. Or if you were going to be in some sort of involved in some sort of activism work or something, it's to like court watch and get up the ass of the government employees that are supposed to be doing this or that. Because in the courts, if the courts aren't doing its job, then you go over to the legislative branch and the executive branch. And there are certain agencies. For example, we have HHS. HHS is actually afraid of the protective mothers. They're the only ones who are afraid. Everybody else just laughs at us. But HHS, no, we got this comes CPS is in there, and it's a shit show. So let's see. You know, as I say, either you exist and you do that, and you actually do it, and not just put on a piece of paper that you're doing it, or you pack up your bags and you leave. Because everybody, all of these think tanks, all of these nonprofits and everything, it is just in one way or another, it's a scam. Either it's being used to lobby and control the government, or I think, who was it? I think it was Tucker Carlson who was talking about, like welfare for the rich. How it's their nonprofits. And that's used either to ease their conscience. This is kind of a la Rockefeller and the Roosevelts did this. And well, the Clintons have taken it, and the Clintons and Obama have taken it to new heights. But so, yeah, all of that stuff just needs to pack your bags and go away, and assets need to be pulled because this is all a house of cards and it's all fraudulent. And we can pay off the 39 trillion in debt. The money's there.
Deeply fascinated with truth. I am fascinated with truth. And I believe such a thing is possible. I don't believe in the post-structuralism. I don't believe that, no, well, everyone's got their own subjective truth, because I believe in God. Now, so with something like this impending trial, which you've sort of, when we were chatting before, described as the elephant in the room, yeah, it's sort of like, it's sort of awesome. And I mean that literally. I mean, it induces a terrifying, glorious awe. Because, like you, I look at the news the whole time, right? And I'll look at a story like what many people would refer to, and you would refer to, as a genocide in Gaza. And I think, wow, we consume so much information now. I find it hard even to connect with the human beings. Like, I can't take it when I see, and this individual father has lost this individual child. When it gets that close, I can't really even take it. And say a story like this one, because I have a strong instinct, and I'd love to have the conversation I could have with you about how media operates, how media selects, how media deselects, how media targets. But media is not neutral, particularly traditional, conventional media. We're doing this interview in an Associated Press studio. The Associated Press is a sort of a bastion of neutrality with how it's regarded. But if you investigate the inception and funding of the Associated Press, you will discover that it's like all media. It has a telos, an intention, a function. It's there for a reason. And you and me, we've lived in that world. We know things a lot of people don't know. You know stories that if they were printed would blow some of the world's biggest stars out of the water forever. We know that. We live in that world. And beyond celebrity gossip, even though, gosh, to this day, people are fascinated.
Yeah, see, a lot of things are being hidden. I know all these stories as well. God, I remember in Bogota, I said to somebody, I was like, yeah, well, I know everybody who's sleeping with who. I mean, it was, it's just like, come on, you guys. I thought we were out of college. And that y'all were married.
Important stuff, man, about corruption and the world's most powerful people. We know it, and it's hard to communicate it. Sometimes it's difficult to corroborate it. Sometimes it's imprudent to say it because of personal reasons. You've got to survive in this world. You have survived in this world. Where I am now is I feel like I've been on trial my whole life anyway. The whole thing's been a trial. I'm just some kid from Grays. I've been a heroin addict. I'm the only child of a single mother. The whole thing's a trial. I go to jail. The thing is, I believe in God. I've always believed in God.
Again, where's the stories now about, the like Nancy and Ronald Reagan, Leave It to Beaver? I mean, like, uh, everybody, single mothers, drug addict parents, I mean, Rob Reiner, death, their son that killed both his father and the mother. Um, yeah, well, that's exposed again. Rob Reiner's father was horrifically abusive, and I do believe that included sexual abuse. And I assume the son. I mean, this has got to stop, really.
It is different to believe in Jesus. It is different, and I'm really aware that some people just think.
Have you thought? I mean, have you
Yeah,
thought?
and all of this, I believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus. If I believe in Jesus, if I say I believe in Jesus, I'm saved. I've never gotten that. It's like you can do anything and everything in this world and just, oh, I believe in Jesus. I'm born again. I'm saved. I mean, I don't think it works all like that. I guess I'm gonna have to do some more research in it, but I don't think it works like that.
Thought about the reality of losing your liberty.
Yes.
Of night one in a cell, and that's going to be your life for a few years. In other words, the worst case scenario, which everybody who faces a criminal trial has to contemplate.
And all of us.
Of course.
I mean, I'm sorry, this is ludicrous. What I know about I haven't read the the documents on, I don't know even if it's even out there. The allegations against Brand. My understanding is, yeah, Russell Brand. I mean, he slept with everything that moved. I mean, he even talked about it. That was his persona. That's what everybody loved him for. He was, sex and drug and rock and roll of the 90s. Believe 90s. And then I don't know, maybe into the turn of the century, whatever. And I mean, that's what they were all doing. That's what they were all there for. You go, this was whether it be Studio 54, before that it was Plato's Retreat. I mean, Google Plato's Retreat. I mean, that's freaking orgies. You go in, everybody's naked. I mean, oh, don't even, the swimming pool, oh, gross. Like, Google it. But then even before that, in the 1800s, late 1800s, I forget the name of it, but it was, filled with courtesans. And it was all of the upper crust men. And the madam there, you had the goods on everybody. I mean, this is progress. This is progress. This is really also in the East why the Muslims don't want the feminist. And in fact, all of a lot of the violence, the bulk of it, of all of these jihadists and the violence and the extremists, goddamn feminists getting in there. I don't want them over there. We don't want them. They've wreaked havoc here, and they're exporting their ideologies and their practices over there, and they're getting pissed off. I mean, I've been exposing that for years. I mean, growing up, the whole feminist movement. So I'm born 63. By the time I get into, come of age in DC, watch St. Elmo's Fire. That's the perfect one to see, like, what DC and what I came of age, what the whole scene was. But you know, so I kind of got the end of the feminist movement. We were already supposedly liberated. So, but I don't know. I don't think, see, I never felt any kind of discrimination against me as a woman. I mean, my father was very like chauvinistic. I mean, he was from the deep, the deep South, still Southern gentleman. A boy doesn't do housework. The boy's supposed to go out and hunt and can feed the dog and take out the trash and stuff. So, whatever. But as I say, no. In fact, when I got recommended for a job, it was usually by a man. And that was not, not because I had slept with them, but I mean, one guy, he said, I've never seen anybody work so hard. You want to earn twice what you're working. It was for a stockbroker guy. So anyway, yeah, but you know, this is a this these people are crazy. And we've got crazies in charge.
All the time,
Of course.
every day.
But have you thought about that moment, if that clanking door shuts and you lose your liberty, how you would deal with that?
I will be with God wherever I am, and of course, I would prefer to be with God with my wife and my kids. But this is what I have to do. I'm not saying that that's not a difficult image, and a difficult thing to contemplate. Of course, it is. But in fact, actually, what I was trying to get to, but I recognise I pirouette some when I start talking, was the hardest thing is knowing that in spite of all the potential reasons that I'm in this situation, that there are people in this world that feel so aggrieved about their contact with me that they are willing to go through this process. That is a very difficult thing to countenance, and a real challenge, and something that in whatever ways are necessary must be addressed. And
Sorry, I didn't really finish, but okay. So my understanding of the charges are that he had sex with these women, and then later these women are coming forward and saying, well, I didn't really want to, or I was under drugs or something. Well, this is what I'm sick and tired of. We went to the party, it was party hardy. Some of the victims of the Me Too, of the Virginia Giuffre, the Jeffrey Epstein crowd, these sugar babies, some of them, not a lot, some of them I've heard say, well, I didn't realize that I was being trafficked until I was told by, these lawyers and these psychologists. They said, I didn't realize I was being trafficked. So, like, where's the tort? They were completely willing. How can you approve tort in that? Like, see, this is another thing that's the law has gone completely fascist. And I mean that in the true sense of the word.
it is comforting to think that there could be justice, that there could be. We are going to find out the truth, and we're going to deal with the truth. Because actually, I am not afraid of the truth. And if the truth is I am going to prison, then my job will be, do not be afraid of that truth. That is what you are going to do.
When I interviewed you for GQ, I went and found it yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my
word,
tell me, darling.
Literally 20 years ago. It was March 2006. We met at a trendy bistro near Tottenham Court Road in London. That was the first time I'd ever interviewed you. You were 31 at the time.
Wow.
And I was quite gushing. I said, I assumed I'd find Brand irritating, pointless, and easy target, but I was wrong. He was charming, articulate, outrageous, and very, very funny. We roamed through 2 hours through his extraordinary life, a non-stop orgy of comedy, drugs, bulimia, hookers, four-in-a-bed romps, and celebrity bed notches. And then, for some reason, I asked you halfway through, are you a more successful sexual predator now that you don't drink? And you replied, yes, but I resent the word predator. I like to think of myself as a conduit of natural forces. After all, the most natural thing in the world for people to do is fuck, isn't it? And people want to do it. So all you have to do is remove all the reasons why women don't actually go through with it, like pride and reputation. You just have to unpick the conditions stopping women going straight to bed with you.
That sounds like charm, seduction, game. Do you remember in the era immediately prior to this one? And one would have to accept that Me Too redressed in 2015 when that happened. a dreadful imbalance in male-female power dynamics that it's good that there's an ongoing conversation and that some of the corruption and exploitation in that is being exposed and explored. And what that was there at 31 Man, that was, I forget, because being famous has been for me, it sounds like you enjoy it more than I do, but for me it's been like...
There's a double-edged sword for everyone.
I don't know, like, I mean, there's bits I've really liked, and what that I can hear in that lovely piece of writing is that I was into it, and I forget that now. Like, even talking to you about football can be hard, because I really love West Ham. That's my, like, when I was a little boy, when I was a teenager, and then suddenly I'm with Cameron Brady, and I'm with the Sullivan et al., you know, but now, because, like, I have a different view of the culture now, Piers, and I'm afraid, like, I regard it as evil, in a word.
I think fame can be one of the most insidious drugs of all.
Certainly it is, but what is it?
The craving that people have for it, and then actually the cold, hard reality of how it warps a lot of people's values, a lot of the way that they behave.
Yes.
All those things. I see it all the time.
Yes. What does it do to... I mean, and also...
It's like any drug. I think it's like any drug. It's like...
Oh, yeah. It's... This is what I was thinking. Didi got a podcast. He was doing... I forget who he was doing... an analysis of. I forget who it was, but he was like, no, you know, he sold out. Oh, it was Joe Rogan. He sold out and stuff. And I'm like, what people don't understand is that they get into this environment that's very easy, very seductive. I mean, everybody wants to live the lifestyle of the rich and famous and, you know, go on a yacht and, you know, I mean, when you're a kid or something, that's fine. Yeah, but see, as an adult, it is. Who doesn't like, you know, some finer things in life? And when you're given that, you know, all of this, and there's no limits. All of a sudden, there's no limits. You're allowed to do anything you want. And it's very, it's like a drug. Yeah, it's like a drug. I mean, that's kind of one of the things, and I've come to understand why you had, you know, the whole heredity, the whole monarchs and all of that, is if you're born into that, you know, you're not so impressed. In fact, you're like, God, I mean, personally, I've always felt sorry for those people. I'm like, oh my God. I loved it with Stephanie of Monaco. And I just saw this recently. I'd forgotten about this one. She's in an interview. I believe this is David Letterman. You know, it's the 80s. And she's very young. And he's like, well, like, what's like the weirdest or one of the things about being a princess? She said, you have to shake people's hand 525 or something times. And he laughed, and I was like, that poor girl. How horrible to stand in those lines, be a princess, and have to stand in those lines and sit there and shake and, you know, make small talk and then go to this party and then go to that party. And then one of my favorite movies is with it's a 1950s Audrey Hepburn, and she's this princess and she escapes, and I think it's with Cary Grant. She escapes for the day and, you know, lives the life of a normal person. Like, lady, I get it. Oh God. Whoever wants that life has to be crazy. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Cocaine, it's like all these things. It is a drug that people crave it and they want more and more of it. And then there's usually at some stage, unless they're incredibly strong, mentally strong, there's normally a tipping point where the reality of big fame hits hard. And the show business is littered with the professional carcasses of people that then couldn't deal with the downside of it.
Maybe if we replace the word drug with stimulant, it becomes clearer to understand that you are stimulated by your own fame, by your own reputation. Now, even a person that's not famous, and obviously most people aren't, except for Warhol's perspicacious and proverbial 15 minutes, which of course has happened now. All of us have the idea that there's an object of ourselves that people are commenting on, a facade, a mask. Obviously, the word hypocrite comes from mask wearer. Now, you have an identity in public, I have an identity in public, and what I can hear there, man, and it warms me, is I was being 100% honest. And I'm being 100% honest now. I'm not afraid of the truth. So if justice is real, if telling the truth is how a person's meant to operate, I was telling the truth then. And I can I can feel that. I mean, 31, that sounds like a 19-year-old really, but I was stunted in many ways, like a lot of crackheads and smackheads. You kind of formaldehyde yourself in addiction somewhat. And that's like someone that's, I remember the rush of first becoming famous, of the glory of it. Not only the superficial glory of like going from being poor to not being poor and going to like, oh, it's embarrassing and difficult to chat up women to, oh my God, look at this. But also the sense that a world that had been saying, no, you can't, suddenly we're saying yes. Like, yes, you can have a TV show. Yes, you can be on the radio. Yes, you can have a book. Yes, you can. Yes. Like it was sort of beautiful. There was something about it that was amazing. I mean, creatively. I mean, like that to be able to do, to have an interview with you and to opine and for someone to care when you've felt very small all your life. Like I think a lot of people probably do, because I think this world makes you feel small, indeed makes you feel irrelevant. Just like if I'm not famous, if I'm not sleeping around or driving this car, I'm sort of really curious about like, say the thing with you and the lad HS Tiki Toki and Andrew Tate, these sort of new stars that are post the era that you and I are from. I really highly regard their boldness. Even in both of the instances just cited, they're bold men. I like that. But they are still advocating for a set of values that clearly I advocate for in a somewhat more camp way, even then. That if you aren't sleeping around with a bunch of women, you ain't worth much. And if I can get one thing across to you today, I want it to be that being in Christ and like being in God, it gives me the strength to recognize, you might have to go to jail, but people go to jail. That's the thing that happens to people in the world, and people go to jail that shouldn't have gone to jail.
What I find most sort of interesting when I read that,
people who go to jail who shouldn't go to jail. Now that's where I disagree. And I'm sorry, it is unacceptable. People who shouldn't go to jail shouldn't go to jail. And I mean, the courts have been weaponized and politicized for decades and decades and decades. I mean, this is historical, but it also is linked to the war on drugs, and which has produced the new Jim Crow in the United States, but it's produced the same degradation of the rights of litigants, but also the rights of citizens in the larger community for a variety of reasons. So, yeah, people who shouldn't go to jail shouldn't go to jail. Well, alari.
That GQ thing, it was like all the things I said. It was highly entertaining, made me laugh out loud. It did again when I read it the other day. But obviously you read it with a slightly different context given what's happened to you. You're very like honest, open, brazen, some might say. You admitted you slept with thousands of women, sometimes 2 at a time, 3 at a time. You were very like, this is all a bit of a laugh. And you were taking a lot of drugs through the late 90s, early 2000s. And my question for you is that obviously you're facing these serious charges. Obviously,
I'm thinking of this right now with Piers Morgan. There's the open mic scene of Les Wexner's lawyer telling Les Wexner, if you say one more fucking word, I'm gonna kill you. Oh, that's a precious moment. That reminds me of this moment of like listening to this and being Russell Brand's lawyer and going, yeah, cringing.
So you've been emphatic.
Sorry, I do sometimes have a sense of humor about all of this stuff, even though it's not funny. Oh, God.
and consistently emphatic in your denials that you've done anything criminal and that anything was non-consensual, which will be the key determinant of your liberty, actually, whether a jury agrees that this was all consensual. Putting aside the morality aspect, and we'll come to that, which is an interesting, different discussion, but it's not about crime morality. It's a court of public opinion, perhaps, but it's a different thing. But my question, I think, looking back on it, and the lifestyle that you've talked about very openly now, looking back on that and saying, look, I was out of control, taking all these drugs, sleeping with all these women, whatever, is how can you be sure that your own memory is good, is sound, is reliable, is truthful? Most people who've slept with thousands of women and taken barrel loads of drugs and led this incredibly hedonistic lifestyle, I would think if I interviewed them and asked them to name even what year it was, would struggle to remember. Can you be certain, if you're honest, that your memory is completely sound, accurate? Do you remember half this stuff?
Well, yes, I can be honest.
It's a relevant question, isn't it?
Of course it is. Yes, I can be honest, and I am honest. And I think what's an important distinction is that I was a drug addict prior to becoming famous. So that was a very different rhythm and time. And I think the question was, has it made you a more successful predator? And even then, I objected to the idea of predation as persecutory. But predation is simply an amplification of looking for something with intention. And the reason I wasn't famous when I was still using drugs, Piers, is because when I was a drug addict, I was
But, I mean, as he points out, when he became famous, all of a sudden the girls are throwing themselves at them. I loved Tara Palmieri. This interview, I forget the woman's name, but somebody gave her Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s what do you call that? His diary. Now, a diary is private. Nobody has the right to publish to publish the things in another person's diary, unless, of course, that person gives it to you, or gives you the permission to do it. And my understanding is his ex-wife, his deceased wife, who stole it from him. And I think that's also, promoting the horrific things that people are doing to each other in divorces, and that kind of behavior shouldn't be encouraged. But however, so anyway, the thing that I was like, wait a second, you guys, this doesn't make Bobby sound very bad, because apparently he's putting in there that, like, oh, I resisted. Yet another woman, she threw herself at me and I resisted. And that's like supposed to be something bad about Bobby. Like he's counting how many times he's resisted. Bobby he had a drug addiction, and I do believe, sex addiction, that he's been honest about. And I think this was part of exactly, like how he was, his therapy, whatever. Whatever works for whatever person, that should remain private. And I'm like, wait a second, the guy's saying he resisted because, excuse me, Bobby Kennedy, JFK Jr., I mean, are you kidding? They're having them, women are throwing themselves at them their entire life. I remember even one time Megyn Kelly, I remember she said it, that her mom had told her when she was going to Brown, I believe it was, but she's going to the same law school as John JFK Jr., and her mom's like, oh, you got to go and hook up with John. You got to go and hook up with John. I mean, I was like, oh, God, that sounds like my mom. But anyway, yeah, so see, also women throwing themselves at men, but also that's what they're trained to do by their moms. And this gets into the UN report, in-depth study on all forms of violence against women. While it is men who are perpetrators of 90% of the sexual and physical violence in the world, it is women who promote the norms and customs that sustain that violence. And they also do it through their socialization of their young, angry men, as well as their promiscuous young women.
Viable economic proposition for potential media partners. The reason that I'm able to remember is something that I think is sort of quite essential, is that I'm telling the truth in that GQ article, amidst the sort of flamboyance and the evident had.
Oh gosh, this is a GQ article to plus. I mean, this is what this is what sells. Isn't anybody having a problem? You got Playboy, GQ. I mean, oh, I mean, remember the video with Erica Kirk and her early boyfriend? I forget his name, the baseball player, or I don't know, basketball, baseball, or whatever. That she traveled all over the world for, and him saying, "Yeah, sex sells." Remember that video? I mean, come on. The hypocrisy, that's what bugs me the most.
Donic.
At least I don't know, at least it was just used to be the conservatives that were so hypocrite, and the liberals at least weren't hypocrites. Or I don't know, maybe I was asleep at the wheel, but that's always, I mean, for me, that's why I was always a liberal. It was live and let live, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. And pretend, live this facade, and then espouse one thing and then live another way.
Is a person that was looking for a lot of attention and approval and love and connection. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't clumsiness and that there wasn't selfishness and objectification and lots of things, though, to your point about there being a moral distinction. Flat out wrong. But it's very different than a kind of a bawdy, overbearing, oppressive, controlling. Obviously I'm aware of the sort of claims that were made publicly in the documentary, and I'm not sure to which degree what makes part of this so complicated. This all happened subsequent to a documentary, and as a journalist, that journalists are not held to the same level of, I want to say, integrity as an investigator of a legal matter. That if you're a journalist talking to someone, like even you now, you know how to navigate me into certain positions. If you were talking to someone, or 100 someones, or 500 people saying, look, you slept with Russell Brand, what happened? Or someone else has told me this. It's quite easy in a non-legal.
Well, I mean, if you're investigating something, it's obviously, the first thing you tell them is you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against it. Okay, if you're a private detective, you do kind of also have to identify yourself. It's just, as a journalist, who are particularly these, and these are not investigative reporters. These are anchor people. They're celebrities. They get up on a stage and they, read from a script. This is another thing. What qualifications do all of these people have, except they know lots of people in the communications and entertainment business? Oh, great.
A non-judicial setting to induce, encourage and direct people to look at things in a particular way. And I think once that artifact has been made, I'm certainly not making claims about the criminal judicial system, which I, like you, believe will provide a just outcome. Because ultimately, I think whatever outcome occurs, like as you say, I have to live with that, and will do, obviously. But how does one remember? Yes, it is a long time ago, but firstly, I was never drinking or taking drugs. I think people conflate, because some of the films I played drug addicts and drug users and stuff. Frankly, all of the films I made, there wasn't an enormous range at hand there in that film career there. But the reason I remember is because I was there, because I'm present, and because the whole thing was very live and alive. I have a good memory, and particularly, obviously, this is something I've had to reflect on and go.
You were clean from 2002.
December the 13th, 2002 is the date I got.
Some of the allegations go back to 99, so there must have been some crossover.
Well, without wanting to get into the specificity of the criminal matter, that's not generally the complexion. And in the variation from that generality, there are other indicators that make it clear that my memory is reliable. The
interesting thing, I was listening to your Megyn Kelly interview yesterday, and it's blown up. We're both in New York, and it's blown up big in America today. A lot of people commenting about this. Let's play the clip for those who haven't heard it.
In Europe and in the United Kingdom where I'm from, the age of consent is 16, and I did sleep with a 16-year-old when I was 30. But when I was 30, I was a very different person. I was a lot younger, and I was an immature 30-year-old. Consensual sex, actually, with a variety of people, when there is a strong power differential, as there is when you're a famous man that has the ability to attract women that I had at that time, I think involves exploitation.
Okay, I want to stop right there for 1 second. I remember when I went to Cobham, so I was 14 years old. And I was shocked by stories, and I think that I had even read a book or something about this, but 13-year-old girls and 14-year-old girls who are like getting in a van and with several boys, one after another. And that was like, it was something that the commoners did, but it was going on. I was like, my God. I couldn't even imagine. Okay, I had grown up in the suburbs of Tucson, Arizona, upper class neighborhood in the foothills when it was sparsely. There it was just all cactuses. This is 60s and 70s. But like never had I heard of anything like that in the United States. Now this was Jerry Springer's bodyguard. After that, I forget but Jerry Springer's bodyguard, he started some show that kind of specialized on that. And he'd bring in all of these young girls who were 13, 14, 15 years old and go in and have sex all over the place, like in the school bus and everywhere. And we're trying to get pregnant. And one time he's like, well, why do you want to do that? And she's like, well, I want somebody to love and love me. And her mom's sitting there, I love you. I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. Need we look further? So the feminists have been promoting sexual promiscuity for a long time. The pedophiles have been given free rein and not held to account. And the courts are just, I've been telling everybody this for 20 years. In family courts, pedophilia is covered up all the time. And sorry, that, and this kind of behavior is going on. There again, it was among some lower classes of like urban centers where you had the young girls sleeping around trying to get pregnant. One of the productive things that I saw, I think it was that show that they did, was they took these girls and they said, okay, you want a baby? We're going to give you one of these. There's like these living dolls. I think they have them, I don't know, like for medical training or something. I don't know, but they don't give them live babies. But they do have these babies that apparently will have all of the bodily functions and stuff, and they have to take care, or maybe they do have live babies and they're supervised or something. Anyway, but they don't leave them alone. But so, okay, you have to take care of this baby for 24 hours. And at the end of it, they're like, okay, I got the picture. No.
What's been interesting is the way that's played out, because you were right in what you said. It was perfectly legal for you to have sex with a 16-year-old girl in the UK. That's the law. In America, here in New York, for example, the age of consent is 17. So here it would have been a crime had you done that here. But I looked at every state in America because I thought it was an interesting. I saw some people commenting on this on social media. In about 30 states in America, the age of consent is 16, the same as the UK. I'm not even sure most Americans are aware of that. About another dozen states, it's 17. Another dozen or so, it's 18. So there's no uniformity around America, but actually, in the majority of states in America, it's the same as the United Kingdom, and therefore would not be a crime. Now, again, people can take a moral view about it. I think you took a moral view about what you were doing then. Interestingly, the GQ interview happened when you were about that age.
Yeah.
So it was going on then. And you used the word exploitative. Some people I've seen latch onto this and say, well, yeah, so he knows what he's doing is wrong. He knows that that was wrong. What is that line for you between exploiting, as a 30-year-old man, a 16-year-old girl, to the point where it becomes criminal potentially? What is that line for you?
I suppose it's consent, Piers.
Right.
No, wait a second. I'm going to jump in here. No. Where it becomes criminal, illegal. Okay, wait a second. Yeah, because if it's the age of consent, it wouldn't even be statutory rape. Because precisely, usually it would be statutory rape if it's not a prepubescent. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure about that. But so, but the thing is it's criminal if the law says it's criminal. It's not criminal according to what Russell Brand thinks is criminal or not criminal. If the age of consent is 16 and it was consensual sex, well, this was not, it shouldn't be in a criminal setting, in criminal courts. Now, if the girl can somehow prove duress or, like, how shall I say, extenuating circumstances. Because, again, if it's consensual, it's consensual. Now, she might say, oh, I was completely on drugs and, you know, he should have known, and I want to take him to court and do this in a civil, and I want to go after him for some damages because I suffered later emotionally. You know, that's another story. But in terms of criminal, if this is what I kept on saying about the issue with the New York courts and Virginia Giuffre. I'll even show, yeah, most people don't, know statute of limitation, excuse me, age of consent. Age of consent, New York, 17. Age of consent, Florida, 16. Oh, well, I thought that would change. I thought it was 16. I was sure it was 16. Under Florida law, the age of consent, oh, excuse me, 18. Yes, excuse me. No, Florida, this is, sorry. Yeah, so 17, New York, when Virginia Giuffre met Jeffrey Epstein, she was already 16. I remember she had her 17th birthday, but apparently she was 17 when the allegations against Prince Andrew. And my understanding was that it was either the island, the ranch, which would have been New Mexico jurisdiction, the island that would have been St. Thomas jurisdiction, or Florida would have been Florida jurisdiction. And see, in Florida, they would have had a higher age of consent issue to deal with. But here they were dealing with the 17-year-old age of consent, but they're going to take it to the New York courts because the New York courts are in the pockets and in bed with the Me Too feminist. That's what the issue I've had with the New York courts. I was like, wait a second. We all know anybody who's working on court reform or anybody who is a lawyer knows about forum shopping.
That the age of consent means in varying ways in different places people have a understanding which probably isn't wholly accurate and reliable, that at a certain age a person is able to make a consensual decision to smoke a cigarette or vote or have sex or gamble, and these things vary according to jurisdiction and type of law. And in the place where I was both emotionally and spiritually and geographically, that was a legal thing to be doing, but not a morally sound thing to be doing.
I've been struck by a lot of people on the conservative right in America are furious about what they perceive to be a revelation. It wasn't a revelation to me because it's been talked about before and reported widely. Are you taken aback because you've moved here, you live in Florida, you've sort of embraced the MAGA movement to a degree, not completely, but to a degree. You've written a book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days.
Oh God, another one who's written a book.
And you obviously are a different person now, there's no question of that. But are you taken aback by the reaction to what you said to Megyn Kelly, the fury from a lot of people on the conservative Christian right here?
I'm surprised all the time.
The fury of the conservative Christian right. My Lord, hypocrisy at its top. Go back and see my videos covering the Charlie Kirk assassination, TPUSA, and Andy Biggs, Arizona. I still am looking into all of this shit. There's the Mormon element there. Oh, my sister, she's in Colorado. She's been going off on the Mormons for years and years and years. I'm like, okay, yeah. Anyway, that is, and this is getting into the satanic elements and sacrifices, cannibalism, child trafficking, very, very satanic stuff. And this is going on in the Christian right. Now, it's not, it seems to be across religious lines. As I say, there's the Mormon. Apparently, they don't like to be called Mormon because of the negative connotation. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe that's for a reason. So I don't care what you call yourselves. The facts don't change the facts. So also LDS. You're gonna get some. We're gonna like me. We're gonna LSD. Oh no, sorry, LDS. Yeah. So anyway, Mormon. Um, but then there's other. I mean, I'm no expert in all of the different churches. I'm like, wait a second, Episcopalian, Baptist. Like, well, what's the difference with all? Yeah. Okay, that's another one of the projects. I'm gonna have to like look into those different factions. But yeah, so oh God, see, this is also gaslighting. there's some real heavy shit that's going on now with the Christian right. And so let's turn the spotlight and start pointing fingers and away instead of towards themselves.
By stuff, but if people think it's wrong for, I mean, I'm a Christian and I'm serious about it. I think that the only safe place to have sex is within marriage. So I agree with them. It's very difficult to. You asked at the beginning of our conversation what are the challenges. Well, the challenges are.
See, this is. I mean, I respect people's religious beliefs. However, when it comes to the whole thing with, no sex before marriage or outside of marriage, I mean, that's very antiquated of my mother's generation. And, I mean, sex is and should be an important part of marriage, and you want a healthy sexual relationship. So, I don't know. I think there's too much of a tendency. You're going to be like, well, let's not wait any longer, and you would maybe jump into marriage, which is not something that I think you should jump into. And if you have several partners before you get married and several relationships before you get married, I think also, um, maybe you'll avoid some mistakes. That I just think is, as I say, I think it's individual, but it shouldn't be any kind of taboo.
Are a criminal judicial proceeding that's about law and consent, a PR situation that's about people's feelings and sentiments that often cross over, what the compromises and flaws are in a media, judicial and legal system that are plainly somewhat symbiotic and porous. There's a lot of different things happening, but I think the sort of probably the simplest thing for me to focus on is, should I have been doing that? And the answer is, in retrospect, no. And what's a bit difficult is how we all, and I presume you're the same, feel like, well, whatever we did in the past, it's made us the person that we are today. And it's difficult to make that claim when you have to acknowledge that your actions have caused distress.
The girl concerned in that story, we can discuss that because it was from the documentary and it's not part of your legal case. But she dated you for 3 months when she was 16. She described you referring to her as the child, sending cars to collect her from school, coaching her on what to tell her parents, made allegations about the sexual interactions you had, suggesting that you forced yourself in certain ways and so on. But she's not part of the legal case, and let's be clear about that. So there's no suggestion of criminality that's been levelled at you legally. But when you hear that account, what do you feel?
So I'm confused. I'm confused what this case is about now.
About the fact you were nearly twice her age, she was only 16, and you're picking her up from school, all that kind of thing. What do you feel about it?
Well, I think some of those details are pretty important and relevant. And how I feel about it is, as I've said, it's not nice to know that my actions have contributed to a person suffering, and there should be there must be justice for that. The context in which those consensual encounters were happening was a sort of merry deluge of constant consensual activity that was very, very difficult to sometimes believe was happening, but one adjusts to those kind of conditions. And I would say Piers, on a personal level, yes, of course, that's wrong. It's morally and spiritually wrong. It's legal. It's not a legal issue. But I don't want to try to minimize my actions anyway. I'm fully culpable and absolutely not happy, but willing, of course, to deal with the consequences of my actions. Not so willing to deal with consequences of actions that were not undertaken. I think that's a really important distinction to remind you and your audience of. And also, I suppose, it seems like a deliberate removal of context not to continually cement that famous men that are single have always and typically behaved in this manner. One prays consensually, but one also suspects that there's a responsibility incumbent on people that have that power, whether that power is magnetism or whether that power is fame or whether that power is money or whatever that power is. It's not very easy to live a moral life in a culture that really openly rewarded. Were you still at the Sun when I was being Shagger of the Year? This one I was literally being given awards for it.
No, I mean,
so of course it's really terrible.
I'd actually left the Sun, but the Sun had an award called Shagger
Yeah, he's getting awards for this.
of the Year, and you won it a couple of times, I think.
3 times.
And it was,
some of the glory's faded.
Right, but it was
is money or whatever that power is. It's not very easy to live a moral life in a culture that really openly rewarded. Were you still at the Sun when I was being Shagger of the Year? This one I was literally being given awards for it.
No, I mean,
so of course it's really terrible.
I'd actually left the Sun, but the Sun had an award called Shagger of the Year, and you won it a couple of times, I think.
3 times.
And it was,
some of the glory's faded.
Right, but it was
amidst the rape allegations, the Shagger of the Year titles do not seem quite as valuable, I'll have to confess.
Right, but
some of the shines come off.
Well, the point I would make is, at the time, everyone embraced it as good fun. You were seen as this big shagger, and it was all very funny and entertaining, and nobody at the time was coming forward to say this was rape, sexual assault, or anything else. And that was the context of that time.
Yes.
Now, it obviously, there's a very different thing about it.
Well, I'll ask you something as a journalist. Also, during Me Too, no one came forward. In fact, people came forward subsequent to a very deliberate documentary. And I feel that, therefore, it's difficult to remove the documentary from the chronology because it's sort of an important artifact in there. And will point that out and how difficult that makes it, even our conversation, the idea of a fair trial, an ongoing conversation, because I would say literally precisely the same behaviour that was lauded, consensual, excessive sex, was reframed when it became convenient, appropriate and useful as non-consensual. And now we have a method and means for dealing with a potentially difficult situation. Now, I wouldn't be so grandiose as to suggest that I am the situation. The situation is something that you do know a lot about. Media has changed from centralised media with a degree of centralised control with rare anomalies. But let's take the COVID example as primary. If you were working in mainstream media during COVID, you would have a pretty prescriptive approach. Indeed, you had that approach. Subsequent to COVID and amidst the pandemic period, inquiries and questions were made in real time. In fact, I participated significantly in that. And it's a matter of public record that logically AI, who worked for Moderna, Pfizer and the British government, dealt with my content, de-amplifying, commenting on, and indeed the 77th Brigade, a PSYOPs organisation that primarily works in foreign territories with the British military during the COVID period, worked in the UK to, and this is a direct quote from I think the Times, take down social media influencers. Now, there's an obvious clear distinction between my reckless, lascivious conduct, about which I was open and honest, indeed your own words demonstrate that, contemporaneously, and the obvious retrospective damage that's now done. It's difficult not to imagine that a documentary made in the midst of my own conflict, ongoing conflict with mainstream media, which, to be plain and frank, I regard as akin to evil. What I mean by that is I think it primarily exists not to give people true information, but to maximise people's vulnerability and the ability of powerful interests to exploit and control people.
Can I just, on that point?
Yes, you can. But remember, be careful because of the legal situation. I just want to land fully that when a country and a country's media treat its own population as a kind of invaded and occupied territory, we should pay attention to that. That there was a military operation took place in this country, the United States, and in our beloved country, the United Kingdom. And there's a reason now, Piers, that people from farmers to the white working class, to almost every aspect of British public life is alive and febrile with hostility, anger and confusion. The systems are breaking down. The systems are breaking down because of the technology. When Breitbart said brilliantly that politics is downstream of culture, perhaps we could have included that technology is very near the top of that stream, not the absolute source. But technology is changing everything.
No, I agree with that. But let me ask you, why would the state, the establishment, why would they come after you particularly? I mean, you were doing a YouTube channel, you were doing your thing, you were having opinions, but a gazillion people were doing that. This sense that you were somehow singled out, targeted deliberately, that all these allegations are only because you, Russell Brand, was saying stuff about a COVID pandemic or whatever. A lot of people think that's honestly bullshit. I was like, come on, Russell, it's not that. And
he lucked out. What do you want? He won the lottery of who are we going to attack next? Of the Me Too bitches. I mean, I think it goes a little bit more deeper into that, goes more into what he represents and what he represented, the the Hugh Hefner gone mad. a cross between Hugh Hefner and Charles Manson. Um,
And when they hear you be, not, I wouldn't say you're dismissing it, but when
No.
you say but when you say
Absolutely not.
but
It's
when,
really
but when
important.
people say also,
I also think that's quite reductive, if I may say, the way
Yeah.
that you've sort of framed it, because it is not just me. I mean, the idea that there is not a set of powers that manipulate the public conversation in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder, the annihilation or near annihilation, which he obviously survived, of Joe Rogan, the vilification of admittedly controversial figures like Tommy Robinson or Andrew Tate, and I'm not trying to set myself up in a rogues gallery here, but Piers, you've operated in media for long enough and with enough depth and understanding to recognise that there are flavours and ways of handling obstreperous public figures. And I don't think of myself as particularly important. I know that my importance
that's really my point. My point is, I just don't think that you were I mean, I don't mean this to be remotely derogatory.
No, but I'm not
because you had a very popular channel and lots of people were watching it. It's not that. It's just, I don't think that your influence in any of those debates would have warranted the establishment going, right, we've got to silence Russell Brand.
Yes, I think you're right. And I think it's that kind of reductivism that stops people having a clear view of how these systems work. And
Russell Brand was like an easy target. This is like, okay, which do you prefer to shoot? That one over there, that's this huge red circle, or the one over there, the tiny red circle over there? I mean, oh, no contest.
And sometimes it's good to take recourse to some of the great American comedians, as Carlin says, where interests converge, no conspiracy is necessary. You know that deep state organisations are nebulous as well as nefarious, that they operate in ways that are difficult to understand, that there is a kind of overall intention. You know that there was a point where mainstream media recognised we're going to have to pivot radically. We're not selling newspapers anymore. People are getting their news from different sources. People are having different conversations. People are starting to not trust en masse. Like, think about this as a good metric, if you'll indulge me. Say, if 20, 30 years ago, when people talk about someone like Alex Jones, and let's not talk about me, let's just go with, that I've got a criminal trial, and quite right, and by God's grace, the right outcome will prevail, and whatever that is, then that's God's will. But on the matter of, is there such a thing as controlling the media, and is there collateral damage in when you're controlling a narrative? Did people want a particular style of reporting and particular information to be prevalent during the pandemic period? Yes. Were voices shut down? Was information controlled? Yes. Do people get de-amplified? Do people get kicked off X the whole time?
I would argue
imagine 30 years ago.
But I would argue a public health crisis of that magnitude globally.
You did argue it, Piers, and one of the main reasons that you remain contentious is because you advocated, you shamed people into getting vaccines, and we now know those vaccines have killed more people
you don't need to hector
than they say. I'm not hectoring you.
Because I'll tell you why. Because unlike most people,
you've repeatedly apologised.
Yes, and I've said, you know what, I believed.
Now,
hang on, you've raised it, so let me address it, because I've heard what you said about this, and I don't blame you. I mistakenly, with hindsight, accepted the real-time scientific advice, which often changed. And in particular, when they said, if you have the vaccine against COVID, you cannot transmit the virus. I thought that was an incredibly powerful thing.
And an untrue thing.
Which meant that, some old person walking around might be infected by some reckless young guy who doesn't want to have the simple jab, and he may kill that person. It turned out that was not true.
So what do you
I became, wait, let me finish. I became incredibly censorious of people who wouldn't have the jab for a period of a few months. And then when they changed the advice, I felt I had actually, in the initial moment, abrogated my journalistic duty. What I should have done was be more sceptical, be more challenging, and certainly be less censorious and judgmental, accepting that in a fast-moving health emergency, the advice is likely to change.
Of course.
So I accept...
Okay, but now, didn't Piers Morgan fall into the same trap as Russell Brand of becoming, seduced? Just going with it. Seduced. I'm not going to ask any questions that, Russell Brand, it was a seduction of, and it wasn't even drugs. See, he said when he became famous, he was no longer, he was an ex-drug addict. So, which is not usually the case, but, so, this is hypocritical of Piers.
It's all that.
No, you don't actually, because...
Well, where we're different is this. I still believe that the vaccine saved millions of lives.
Yes. A lot of people don't. No, I don't.
You don't. I know, but I do.
Good. Okay, that's good. That will be something you'll potentially be adjusting in the future, Piers. And when you do,
don't think so.
You may have another mea culpa to offer to your audience,
Maybe.
because it seems significant to me that crisis benefited some very powerful interests, granted further governmental powers, instantiated the ability to govern at a global level, revealed just how willing people would be to take a medicine, a concoction, let's call it a little more accurately, it seems like it might be extremely deleterious, causing infertility, miscarriage, myocarditis, and that was something that was undertaken with a degree of complicity, at least.
Do you believe in vaccines generally?
I have the kind of questions that anyone that's paying attention
there was
to media...
There was a little outbreak of measles recently.
Oh my God. This whole thing of jumping, anytime you have any discussion about the COVID vaccines, jumping, oh, then you're an anti-vaxxer. Even my siblings said, oh yeah, Dad would have, was an anti-vaxxer. I was like, Dad was never an anti-vaxxer. Oh, well, he wouldn't take the flu shot. I'm like, yeah, with good reason, neither will I. I was like, there's a shitload of vaccines out there. I remember with my sons, they were scheduled to take some vaccine. This was one they were pushing in Paris. So they're still young toddlers. And someone told me, oh, yeah, don't, this is causing this hasn't been tested. So I was like, yeah, what the frick is... And I was... Luckily, somebody said something to me, but they have been, and my father, was denouncing that for a long time. My mother was a famous physician. This is not, I might not be some famous physician, but my father was.
Even RFK was giving evidence yesterday and said he absolutely believes in the measles vaccine. In fact, he said, I'm not anti-vax at all. In fact, he said, I support most vaccines. He had legitimate questions about the COVID vaccine because of the speed at which that was designed.
Yes.
In your case, are you anti all vaccines?
No, I don't.
Or which vaccines do you accept are good?
Calm down and slow down.
It's a serious question.
I understand it's a serious question. Of course it is, but I want you to calm down and slow down. Because,
yes.
Well, then, in which case... unyoke yourself from the conditioning of the world you've found yourself in. See, when Chomsky, and there's a guy whose reputation's changed, said to Andrew Marr, in response to Andrew Marr's, well, I've not been conditioned by the BBC. They've not told me what questions I can ask and what my perspective should be. And Chomsky said to Andrew Marr, no, what I'm telling you is that if you didn't have the right opinions and the right perspectives, you wouldn't be sitting in that chair. Now, you and I have moved between many chairs. We've seen what goes on at the Daily Mirror. We know what happens. We know how people get information. And I know your position on the most public things. And I want to talk to you just as a person that survived in this world.
But on vaccines.
No, look, vaccines. I'm not an expert on vaccines. I don't know anything about vaccines.
Are there any vaccines that you think are good?
It's not something I'm interested in. I don't.
But you're very interested in it. You talked about it a lot.
No, I'm interested in truth, and where truth and vaccines intersect, I'm interested in that. Piers.
So let me.
Hold on. With all of this going on. With all of the upcoming trial, with the complexity of contemporary media, with a country in tumult, with crisis and protest and war, you care what the guy from Sarah Marshall and GQ thinks about vaccines. Well, maybe then my opinion is worth paying attention to.
Well, that's my point.
And particularly if you have
my point. Either you think it is important or you don't.
What I think is important is being able to tell the truth and being able to control information. Now, when you worked at The Sun and The Mirror...
But see, if he wants to have a serious discussion about vaccines, he's asking Russell Brand, who is not an expert on vaccines. Russell Brand has some children. So he should be informed on that at least. Now, my kids, they took the standard, ones that they take when they give it birth and to go to school. This was also 30 years ago. But, we do, and that I do think needs to take a relook, because it's true. As I say, my father was always on top of that. But now we do have, I'm hearing we do have some outbreaks of polio. Now that's normally in some of these immigrant populations. So, there's let's just say that whole thing needs to be looked at and make sure that we are protecting our populations and we are prepared for pandemics because they do occur. My father at the beginning of his career, he was there for the Spanish flu. So they do occur, but this is also maybe why this is Bobby's over at HHS and finding out firsthand what a shit show that is and maybe how to deal with it.
You'd have had certain obligations and restrictions. There's certain stories that get published and don't get published, certain celebrities that get taken down and others that don't. And now you work in this world. And what my prayer is for you, Piers, is that you recognise, and I don't mean this in an insincere way, because I think that mutually we have an opportunity to participate in something a little grander than standing on the sidelines with our faces in the trough of media money, participating in the exacerbating ignorance of people in the UK and the United States of America. The reason I think you've had all these controversies is because you are bullish and you are willing to have a conversation, you're willing to have a go, and that's a real great ability.
I'm also willing to admit when I'm wrong.
That's a lovely quality also.
I think everyone should have that.
But it's good because, yes, in response to new information, we should be able to reassess our opinion. Indeed, I didn't used to be a Christian. I'm a Christian now. And sometimes I'm astonished that other people aren't Christian. And then I remember, oh, you didn't used to be Christian. You didn't know that God is real. You didn't know that it says in the Bible, be careful, the institutions of power have been captured by dark forces. And what I'd like to say is 30 years ago, Alex Jones, David Icke looked at crackpots and wackos, and in many corners of our culture, they're still regarded with that level of derision. And they're on a spectrum, and let's say they're the extreme end of that spectrum. And at the other end, BBC, New York Times. 20 years, 30 years down the line, where do you think the needle is moving? Indeed, where are you moving? You've moved from
I'm not moving to where David Icke and Alex Jones are.
Did you report on a recent story that suggests that there might be global paedophile rings? Have you heard the rumours that many people believe that pandemic had cooperation and planning and even intersects with Bill Gates and Epstein and those rumours? Now, conspiracy theories are by their nature difficult to corroborate because of the ability of real power to mask itself, the necessity of real power to mask itself. And while we sort of sit around in a Punch and Judy show of advocating for Trump or condemning Trump or laughing at Keir Starmer's voice or his former actions when he was at the CPS and what he didn't do about Julian Assange and what he didn't do about other famous and awful cases in our country and how he sped up the courts during those riots.
Thank you, Russell Brand, for comparing it to a Punch and Judy show, because that's what it is.
While that's all taking place, we've not got our eye on what's truly happening. That power is migrating across our entire culture. People are caught up in many needless conflicts. Indeed, your show does a brilliant job of hosting conflicting views, where it's really great orators like Dave Smith and the great story.
I think it's really important to bring people together.
It's nice, mate, but it's a little bit of a circus.
It is more than a little bit of a circus. It's one thing to bring people together. This is something that I do not like about Piers Morgan's show. He seems to enjoy conflict.
Find some conciliation because I believe that we are, and it's hard for me to talk about this because, I've got enough on my plate, man. I've got enough on my plate with my own personal life, like most people do, do in their own way. But I sense we are at a time of real crisis in the UK. I sense that crisis is not going to be resolved by any reshuffling of the existing participants in our parliamentary dance. And a lot of people feel that way. And that's why there's despondency and despair. And what was important about the pandemic, I believe, Piers, was not the, how well you can undergird the science behind the vaccines, and obviously that don't look good at all in hindsight, but the way that the media complied and supported that messaging. Of course, it's a medical crisis and we have to protect people. Disagree. But this is my point.
It's
like in a medical crisis, one second.
Yeah, because in a medical,
of course, we're all looking forward to it enormously.
Of course.
We should all have a little go. Let it run along. Like in a medical, how much of a medical crisis was it indeed? And what was the role in media? If we step back for a moment and watch what happened during that period.
Many millions of people died.
Who was vilified? Who was condemned? What are the excess deaths now? Who's controlling these statistics? That everywhere you look, Piers, there's such astonishing anomalies.
But you accept many millions of people died from COVID, do you?
I'm so uncertain about what happened at that time that I believe that I use it mostly now as a kind of lens to look at how disgusting our culture has become, how appalling, how condemnatory.
But why are you avoiding my question?
Because I have a better one.
What's the better one?
Who believes, even for an instant, that the function of government and media is to protect us and take care of us anymore? Who believes that they would put you in your homes and make you take a medication to preserve human life? I'm not talking about the wonderful staff at NHS hospitals or brilliant doctors or even magnificent scientists. I'm talking about this set of interconnected interests that are sometimes difficult to describe, visible in silhouette, evident in the Epstein files, obvious when wars happen that you don't anticipate happening but somehow seemed inevitable, and clear more than anything during the COVID period.
Had you been Prime Minister...
I get it.
Had you been Prime Minister when the COVID pandemic broke out, what would you have done?
All right, this is what I would do, is I would immediately...
Just to put it in context, you're seeing in Italy, in Lombardy, you're seeing thousands of people a day
I remember
dying because they lived in big family groups in houses.
Yes.
And it was ripping through them, as it did through our care homes, for example.
So what I had really wanted to get into is his brand's hypocrisy net. Massive... Oh, here, you're a massive grifter? Hold on, let's see, I got this.
You're very eloquent, you can be very persuasive with the power of your words, but that actually when it comes to any of these issues, you don't really have a personal principled view.
I do, and it's a really
Your view is that all people in power are terrible, but when I challenged you to say, well, what would you actually do? You go on a 20-minute eloquent spiel, which doesn't answer the question.
Oh my God, it actually does answer the question. Let me try and do it again. Firstly, find faith and integrity in yourself. Do whatever you can. Pray. Find God. Secondly, we cannot have systems that prioritise the centralisation of power, whether that's representative democracy or this global commercialism.
So what would you do?
Use the technology that we currently have. All right, how good, this is the bit I wanted to get to. Can I have a glass of water? I mean, as Associated Press news...
Well, they're not under any obligation to give us bottles of water.
Oh, I see. Well, actually, this guy, my mate Jake,
we are trying to find you something. They're not our servants. So.
No, absolutely. Hold on a minute. I'm not declaring these people...
They don't all work for us. We're just hiring their studios. So.
No, I know that, and I think I've established quite good rapport.
We should be cognizant they're not working
but
for
no,
us.
with my mate Jake, though, who's over there, who actually is working for me.
Well, Jake can get you on.
Who I'm directing it to. And also there was one or two other people. So it's not just to be clear, I'm not sort of like going, oh, give me some water, man.
I'm
a Hollywood star.
AP that they should get you a nice bottle of water.
Well, I just thought that the facility itself might have amidst its many benefits, water. Thank you so much. That's so kind. Was the obligation crossing the floor? See, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that glass of water. Would you like some? Don't be proud.
I'm good, man. I like the tap water.
You like the government water?
I love it, yeah, no problem. Even if it kills me.
I can't keep drinking the government water, Piers. I can't keep taking the government
Actually, the water is some of the cleanest in the world, but you know that.
Look, you're a very argumentative and obstreperous individual.
Not at all. I just like to challenge.
You've even argued with that.
I like to challenge people.
Yeah. Go on. We were talking about... Oh, yeah. This is what I wanted to say. You say that I'm a grifter, and actually, to tell you the truth...
I say other people have said that it's all a grift. And they would actually include, and this is for you to actually, in the end, only you know. But you've got this new book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days. People say, look, you only became a Christian 7 months after the allegations were made public, and that this is part of your thing, that you've worked out that this could...
I'll tell you how to become a Christian in 1 day. 1 day. Start treating people with Christian values. Start treating people with respect. Start treating people, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And kind of you do that, the rest of it kind of falls in place. And voila, you're a Christian.
Could give you some kind of cover.
I mean, okay, I guess for Christian, be a Christian, because you could be a Muslim and do unto others and do, so just be a good person. Yeah, okay, you do have to believe in Jesus. And I mean, because even the Muslims and the Jews believe in God. So yeah, to be a Christian, you do have to believe in Jesus then.
You're a born-again Christian, that this is, you've heard people say this.
But what do you
think? A lot of other people take you very sincerely and believe absolutely in your commitment to this.
I know, I hear you, mate. I
was with a mutual friend of yours, bumped into him, Bear Grylls, the other day. He was a great guy who was there at your baptism. We famously saw the video and so on. He absolutely believes that it's sincere and genuine. And I completely respect that. I don't know, right? In the same way that I don't know where the truth lies about the allegations you face.
Or COVID, or Israel, or Palestine.
No,
neutrality is terrifying
Sure,
for
but
people.
I can only proffer an opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to change my opinion.
Good.
Right? My question for you is, do you have genuinely principled opinions, do you think?
Yeah. Because I think if you don't have... Yeah, I do. But obviously I asked myself the same question. Why go to the aggravation of going on Piers Morgan? Like, because I tell you, like, with everything that's been shown to me, with everything I've learned, the idea of maybe selling some books is it's a professional obligation in some ways, but it sort of doesn't weigh that heavily on me in the scheme of things, just because everything else is so sort of varied, luminous, brilliant, beautiful, awful trial, magnificent trial, best of times, worst of times, revelation of real truth, exposure to the fallibility and facetiousness of fame. Like, I, in a sense, Piers, like you, I don't have the kind of thick skin you have, because I sometimes think you genuinely don't care that if people think you're a grifter. I don't think that. I think you are a creature of our time. In a way, I think that's what is always brought forth.
Well, I think in the end, only I know and only you know, right?
Maybe not even. Maybe not even, because why would you make yourself the highest authority? You can sort of understand your intentions, but there is a thing in psychology called the unconscious. There is a thing in Christianity called the spirit. And both of these things indicate that your personhood is not absolute authority. And in your sort of continued stance, which is somewhat legitimate as a journalist of neutrality, what's kind of masked in that is that Christianity demands of you that you make a choice.
But I'm not neutral.
You kept saying, I've got, like, I'm proffering an opinion, but I don't care about COVID. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I get people on from all sides to debate it. I personally have a lot of opinions, a lot of strong opinions. I'm not afraid to express them. If you ask me about, do I believe in vaccines? Absolutely is my answer. Yeah. Your answer was a long spiel of not answering.
It's like, I'd be really careful about it. I'd be right careful. I'd read Gavin de Becker's book, Facing the Facts. That's what, Forbidden Facts by Gavin de Becker. That's what I'd read on that. And I'd read The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert Kennedy, and then make a decision. And also tell me what books are good to demonstrate the alternative.
Tell me this, what kind of Christian are you?
I'm like a kind of Christian that has to hang by a thin thread of faith, knowing that I am broken, that you are broken.
Do you have a denomination or not?
Why?
I'm asking.
No, I'm very...
It's not an allegation. I'm just asking.
I just treat everything as another allegation.
I know you do. If you don't mind me saying...
Was everything okay in that interview we did in 2006?
Yes. But it's, you are slightly hypersensitive to that kind of thing. I think because you don't really do many interviews, if I'm honest, you don't do... This is the first interview you've done with any Brit, for example, since the allegations. And I'm grateful to you for doing it. But you are slightly hypersensitive to anyone challenging you, because most of the media you don't really get challenged.
I don't mind being challenged, and I want to be challenged.
I don't know why. I mean, if anybody says, do you belong to any denomination? I'm like, no freaking way. Nor in political party. I'm not going to join any cult. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the Bible. But join a cult to drink and pass out Kool-Aid? That's not my style.
Challenged, actually, and I like being challenged. And like, I didn't go, what, Piers Morgan?
Right.
This is what he's like.
Yeah.
he's going to be stroking my thigh throughout the interview.
I think this is a good conversation we've had. People will watch it, they'll take a view, they'll agree with you or me about this, that, whatever.
I think what you're interpreting...
But this should be how conversations are had.
I don't think it is, actually. But like what you're interpreting as sensitivity, it might be sensitivity, it's a form of intelligence or a form of awareness, so maybe that's the right word. But it's also a kind of frustration. And the frustration is the sort of feeling that we're supposed to be saying something that could be valuable and we're not quite getting to it. And I think the reason we're not quite getting to it is because you're so sort of expertly schooled in a particular type of discovery. And I felt that when I made an incorrect assessment of Trump on the one time I met him in, 2006 or something like that. Of like, oh, he's a person that has a sort of a genius, but in a very narrow line. I said to myself, it's almost as if being good at the game Hungry Hippos is the most important thing in the world. And this person's a master of it, and he's become elevated with a very unique skill. The same could be said of LeBron or of Beckham or of anyone, like a skill that is prized in a particular culture at a particular time. And what I'm thinking with you is you're so good at sort of generating sort of conflict and sort of a kind of a needling energy. And I am easily needled because I think that there's purpose and meaning in life. And I believe in new systems of leadership and new systems of government. And I believe in real change. In fact, even the very idea of government could become a position of service. That I believe there are people of valor that are just waiting. That even in the fraughtness that one might get if you talk 1 minute to Tommy Robinson and the next minute to George Galloway, and you're aware of Jeremy Corbyn and you're aware of Yanis Varoufakis, you think, well, there actually are sort of great minds that could participate in a way of actually improving people's lives.
But everybody wants to give their opinion. Everybody wants to be chef spoiling the soup. And nobody wants to go and roll up their sleeves and start taking charge.
Christ, there is the potential that you yourself can live with the odd paradox of your brokenness and the sort of failings of your life and the mistakes you've made and the errors, but also becoming whole in that. For there even to be justice or innocence, these concepts and words we're bandying about, there has to be a God, or you can't have those concepts.
You took probably this Bible, actually, but I think it was this one you took into court, wasn't it?
Sometimes I also think you're not listening. Like, that's why, like,
I did. You're literally talking about...
But what I mean by that is that this might sound a bit, I don't know, woo-woo or hippie, that the sort of the energy is a kind of like, you took this Bible into court, and I feel like I already know where that thread's going.
Where's it going?
It's going to go, well, you're like holding in there, what did you think that was going to be achieved by that? And it's sort of like, I tell you what it is, it's cynicism. That's what it is, it's cynicism. I think you're cynical.
About what?
I'm not preempting your question, I'm preempting your essence. I think you're cynical about human beings. I think you're cynical about yourself.
Not at all.
I think you're cynical about yourself.
I'm one of the most positive people you'll ever meet.
I don't think you believe that you're capable of greatness. I don't think you're...
I've already achieved greatness.
Oh, God, darling. I don't think you think you're capable of participating in meaningful change or even meaningful conversations. I think you think the best that Piers Morgan can do for himself is to host hideous spectacles of conflict about real serious, awful, dreadful stuff.
Why are you here, then?
Well, I'm here actually because I don't mind trying to learn a little bit from you.
To entertain people like me. I'm sorry, but Piers Morgan he does invite sometimes some interesting people. And I have to say there are some classical moments that I've seen on his shows, but he isn't bully, and he likes
you were prepared to come off
conflict. Now, my favorite, one of my apart from Lady Harvey telling Piers Morgan that he's in the Epstein files, and Piers getting all nervous about that, is when Katie Miller, Madame Goebel, Katie Miller and Stephen Miller are the new Joseph and Mrs. Goebel in the White House. And where she is just losing it with Jank, I forget his last name, of the
something you categorize as
of the Young Turks. And she starts losing it on him and like threatening to deport him. I don't know, I forget exactly how she put it, but she loses it. Piers, are you going to let him talk to me that way? This is like so high school. It's like, I was embarrassed for her, and I was embarrassed for this country to have some woman like that at the top in the White House. Oh my God.
A hideous spectacle.
No, I think it's a hideous spectacle. Say, for example, the stuff where there's multi-panels and people are like really screeching each other, maybe about trans issues or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe there's something cathartic in it, maybe, but I don't, and also I don't want to like lay all that on your shoulders. I'm just saying I don't think that's the right way for us to be stewarding the culture. And I think we could do better. And I suppose if to really go into it, what I think is, this is a person I could probably learn from and benefit from, but there'd have to be trust, and it's hard to trust because I sometimes think you're too caught in the world that you used to be in, and it
Can I go back to asking a question about your Bible?
Yes, if you want to.
Thank you. Was that the one you took into court?
You're the very one.
Okay. What was your thinking of taking it into court, and what you were seeing, looking at some passages? What were the relevant passages for you?
All right. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. That didn't hurt, did it?
A little bit. It was this from Isaiah.
After going
You're right,
on.
Blair did say, be chilled. Sometimes I lose the chill, man. It's pretty... It's this. They don't like that, do they, in the old gallery? But remember, you just said it's a hired spot.
Where are we going to go? Are you still looking? Oh, no.
I will praise you, Lord. Although you were angry with me, your anger has turned away, and you have comforted me. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. The Lord himself is my strength and my defense. What I was looking at before is that there's a bit where he says, see, I'm doing a new thing, Isaiah says, like springs in the desert. That like in the desert of your life, when your life becomes barren and difficult, that a new resource with God will appear. And in a situation that obviously feels quite pressurized and condensed, and in all those preliminary appearings that I've attended, there's the presence of something very beautiful. Grace, it would be called. In one of the moments, I think it was the first hearing, although I've had several, the people that patted me down for Securicor Went, all right, Russell, geezer, just 50 years old, just some normal geezer. Patted me down on that for weapons or, I don't know, sharps. And I'm going to have to touch your hair now, you're not going to like this. And he went, the whole country's behind you, mate. Whole country's behind you. And I felt very, very encouraged. I felt very encouraged that these institutions with their emblems, unicorns and lions, are not all there is to our country. And the reason I take it here is to sort of remember, that's the point I think of becoming a Christian, is to remember to put back together again who you are. That we're not, you're not and I'm not our identity in the world, like the identity of I have to do this to get money or get whatever it is that we think we're getting. And it actually is real, into so much as to say Christ is real. That even in the transition from and you know, you had the perspicacity and the insight to diagnose it, even in my agitation of being in an unfamiliar situation, even with someone I've known interstitially, as you correctly assessed at the beginning, you know, my whole life's a trial. And it's not culminating, because there will be a life after it, whether it's in jail or not. But in that trial, in the hardest times, I found him. And it's not like a sort of a palliative. And I suppose the reason I feel difficult around you is because I feel like there's a cynicism that if I talk about something that is very beautiful and certainly robust enough to withstand any of us.
I'm not questioning your faith.
I'm not saying that you are. I'm not saying that you are. But I think it's so important, not because of me, obviously, because who are any one of us? He has no favourites. But I feel like, you know, hopefully this isn't a grift. Hopefully all of our lives aren't just some stupid attempt to garner material things in this temporary place to create the appearance of permanence as we just pass through time to death. In this horror of this time, where the worst things that could be said about a man were said about me. And while my son was, you know, having surgery, as you already know, because you've heard me say it elsewhere, the most graceful and beautiful things happened in my life. I felt whole and I felt loved and I felt everything's going to be all right. And also what's been surprising about it is all the things that I kind of knew just as a kid and going through life as a countercultural person. I mean, not trusting authority is what I mean by that. It's all been underwritten by scripture. It is explained and foretold. You're fallen, Piers. I'm fallen. We will participate in this world in a fallen way. And I reckon the reason me and you both love Bear Grylls, in spite of our sort of, I don't know, whatever this chemistry is because he is sincere and he demonstrates Christ. And I do have a tendency to, as a raconteur and as an entertainer or whatever, try to present stuff. And I do have a tendency, I think, as a person that's felt even prior to all this happening, feel like I'm being under attack my whole life anyway, and that if I wasn't famous and if I wasn't sleeping with loads of women, that I wasn't worth knowing or even worth anything or even worth being alive. And even though, of course, it's the worst thing that's ever happened in my life to be accused of these things, but God provided, because that was happening with my boy, Herbie, who's doing real well, it sort of showed me, it was all bullshit, man. You know who you are, you know what you've done, you know what you've not done, you know your behaviour.
How has Laura, your wife, dealt with this?
She's like, well, like, I'm in a real marriage, mate. And I suppose you are you? So what it's like being in a real marriage is like it's someone who actually knows me and who's known me for a very long time and knows, like, see, when even in the introduction, some people he's a silver-tongued devil and other people he's an arsehole. Well, yeah, but yes, and yeah, silver-tongued devil, arsehole. But she knows me and she loves the reality of who I am. And she's like a cradle Catholic, but she, like you, I figure, sort of, you know, it's hard to live your life like Christ is real because the world is telling you in a million different ways that he is not, that God isn't real.
Is she a believer as well? She is committed as you?
She and I, me and my wife, Laura, with like, her beliefs are very different from mine in a way. Like I suppose it would be because it's hitting a very different prism in her. But we've certainly got a real alliance. And neither of us have got any, like even I suppose why I got rankled even at the asking about the denomination is because it's so beautiful in its purity and its formlessness.
But most Christians have no problem saying what denomination they are.
It's not like I've got a problem with it. I've got this challenge.
And I'm a Catholic. I've got no problem telling you.
I know, but you're very different. You're very different.
But why? Why is it so difficult to answer?
It's not difficult to answer. I'm really interested in Catholicism. Really interested.
You were an atheist.
I kind of love it.
You then were a Buddhist.
See, that's like that. Oh, that's antagonistic.
No, it's not. It's factual.
Like,
you were an atheist.
What are you going to be next?
You were a
Muslim.
That's what some people.
Jew? A Scientologist?
That's what some people think.
Hitler. What do you think about Hitler?
That's what some
Was
people
he okay?
think. That's what some people
Should we
think.
get the jab?
Russell,
have you vaccinated your own children?
Take Bear's advice and calm down.
No, you take Bear's advice and be a good man.
I am a good
man.
man.
Be a good man.
I
know it costs you to be a good man.
You may not.
It might cost you everything.
You might not like.
It might cost you everything.
No, because he is, you know, obviously Russell Brand is taking this Catholicism. Well, excuse me. this Christianity very seriously. I wish we could sit down and have a talk about this whole denomination thing, and I'll give him a way to answer that stuff. Yeah, but it is antagonistic.
You become one, but Russell, you could do it.
You might not.
You could do it, Piers.
Russell, these are basic facts. You were an atheist. You then became a Buddhist.
No,
now you're a Christian.
Good. They're not basic facts. They're information being tailored and collated.
Is it not true?
Yeah. You are attempting to create, using a collage of language.
But you're the one who told us these things.
You told us that.
You were. You told us you were an atheist.
Israel's got the right to protect itself.
Yeah.
This is a genocide. Don't take that COVID shot. Take the COVID shot. Ah! Listen.
But I'm happy to talk about that. You're not.
I'm happy to talk about anything, but I would prefer to talk about...
I only know you're an atheist because you told me.
I prefer to talk about something, Piers.
Fine.
Something.
We're talking about your profound belief in God.
Yeah, he was an atheist. He said that, and it's over. And like, what's there to talk about? I mean...
And as a Christian...
No, we're not talking about my profound belief in God. We're talking about the actuality of God. And we're talking about the fact that you have been doing water carrying for Satan. That's what we're talking about, Piers.
Who's Satan?
Water carrying. The fallenness in this world.
Who's
the fallenness.
I've been carrying water for Satan.
Satan is the epitomizing object of the realness of evil. The evil is not some abstract...
Piers Morgan, he's been selling the lifestyle of the rich and famous practically his whole career. I mean, Piers Morgan, maybe not as much more, but I don't know. But at least Russell Brand repents. Not Piers Morgan.
Moral idea.
Who's to say I've been carrying water for?
I suppose it's and I'm trying not, I don't mean to be mean. The
Satan, you like, I don't care.
It's the institutions of media power and how they interact and operate with government. Mm-hmm. I suppose one could argue your initial position in COVID. One could argue what went on with the mirror stuff. One could argue what went on, say, with the contentiousness around the terrifying and awful conflicts in the Middle East. But more importantly, right now, that there's a chance for us to, even when like I sort of take my own advice and more importantly Bear Grylls' advice and think, right, just sit and chill, that you sort of revert to a kind of, he was an atheist, he was a Buddhist, and I can't see that as a good faith inquiry. I see it as an attempt to generate an outcome and to create a sort of a kind of hysteria, whether that's in this room with me or sort of more broadly among people. Like Piers Morgan Uncensored could be an opportunity to house frame.
Russell Brand's not stupid, I'll give him that. I never thought what I've read about his profile. He's the typical intelligent kid who wasn't challenged, was in a real shit show.
And present in a kind of graceful way important opinions. And I'm not suggesting that I've got any of them, but I happen to be in a sort of a really weird situation in a way that's deeply similar and comparable to your...
And I think this is also what's bothering Piers Morgan here, is he knows intellectually he's in over his head.
Your own. You've sort of gone down the weird gushing chute of fame in a million different ways, been close to actual dark, nasty power, come out the other side. And what I suppose I'm saying is, look, I'm happy to have it. It's because nothing means anything to you. It's like, that's what it feels like a bit. Like, what means something to you? Like, you love your wife, you love your kids, you're willing to die for your country. The UK is about to march teenagers into war. The United States is about to do it. And me and you, me as well, maybe we are a couple of grifters, a couple of worthless, lousy grifters that will say whatever we have to say to stay on the internet, make a few quid and flog a book. And, Meghan Markle, she's a bitch. Is that all right? Is that a bitch? Israel, yeah, fuck it. Maybe that's all we are. But through him, not through you or me, we can be something great. And when I sit here with answering questions about whether or not I vaccinate my kids, I think, no, not this. This isn't it. This isn't it. And there's a hair that's been bothering me for a long time. Thankfully, it wasn't attached. Otherwise, that would have been grooming. And what would that be in the ape world? What I want to say to you is that I want to be better. I want to be better. And for me, the cost of that, who knows what that's going to be? You've alluded to it already. I want you to do it as well. I know you can do it. I want you to be a meaningful participant. I feel that there's some reason that you're in this world, and it's not to generate conflict, and it's to participate in the creation of truth. That was always your destiny, and I want you to do it.
Is your book going to generate profit?
Actually, I've already decided, and believe me, I don't want to do this, but no. But if it does make any money, and the chances of that are slim in this crazy world, that I will find a way. In fact, me and you, if you want. I want to give it to something that means something. I've seen it all. I've not seen it all, but I've seen enough. I've seen a lot.
Tucker Carlson's company's doing it, right? TuckerCarlsonBooks.com.
Tucker Carlson.
I'm a month behind in my rent. If you want to pay that off with some benefits from it, I'll accept it.
Books
.com.
is an imprint of the company Skyhorse,
Yeah.
which are a company that will publish stuff of cancelled people.
Yeah, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days is on sale at patrickcarlsonbooks.com. But no,
I think it's good to be all sort of passive like that. You know, like sort of say neutrality. Yeah, it's my job to be a journalist. It's good in a
I've never
way.
claimed to be neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Where have you got that from? I'm probably the least neutral person on the airwaves in the world.
Well, I suppose by
Literally, my whole reputation is of being highly opinionated. Where have you got this idea that I want to be neutral?
I reckon it's from like
Such totally bizarre misreading.
lack of conviction.
Really?
Excuse me, where do we get the idea that he wants to be neutral? Because this is how he presents himself, that he's trying to be like, give everybody a voice. That sounds a point of neutrality. Even if you do have your own opinions, which you slide in there. And this is where you'll see with Piers, when he lets the reins free, and the cackling hens start attacking each other, and when he puts his foot down. But he does bring everybody on kind of with the objective of let's produce conflict rather than let's discuss this issue in a civilized manner and maybe come up with consensus. But it's always to produce conflict.
Hey,
That's what I feel, yeah.
you don't think I have any convictions?
That's what I'm feeling. I feel that you're a beautiful person, and like, I want to be in a position where, look, man, think of the ones of this I've done. I've done Paxman, I've done that other little one with the earring. I've done all.
Okay, you don't want to say it? No, I don't think he has any convictions. And Pierce Morgan, he as I always say about Megyn Kelly, oh, that little girl, she blows with the wind so much that even after the biggest hurricane this country's ever seen, she's still a-standing.
Been around all these people, mate, and all I want is to feel like in the midst of some terrible madness in my own life, which definitely needs to be resolved, and I pray to God that there is a resolution of this that we can look at. Oh my God, that's miraculous that happened.
What if you get convicted and you go to prison?
And it's not very nice.
No, not that.
You'll have to choose a.
Not
They'll
that.
be the white supremacists,
Not that.
the Muslims.
Not that.
What will you do? Join the white supremacists on one day and then grift for cigarettes with the Muslims on the next day?
How will you deal with the fact that in that moment God has felt that's the right thing to happen to you?
Then, drink the cup, man. Drink the cup. That's the deal we've got. That's the deal we've got, Piers. And how will you feel on your judgment day? How will you feel on your judgment day? Because it's outside of time. It's here now. And it's forever. Meaning that all of us have a calling to be wonderful. And it's bigger than even important, serious things where evidently people have been hurt and big trials and big consequences for,
Have you been surprised? I mean, I've been through a few ups and downs, as you pointed out.
Well, it's also it's a bit like a kind of a dementia. Like, have you ever spoken to someone with Alzheimer's and they'll just sort of suddenly the way that they talk is kind of like, I've been through some ups and downs.
Well, no, there's a reason I'm
no
asking the question.
continuum.
Well, when people go through ups and downs, in my experiences, surprising people reach out to support you.
And also, what's that body language?
And other people that you would have expected to don't. Have you had that?
Oh, man, yeah, it's unbelievable. It's sort of an unbelievable kind of churn and change of your life that's sort of, well, it's a bit like you saying.
Yeah, I have to say I haven't been surprised. I haven't been surprised at all. I've been completely canceled by everybody I know, but I haven't been surprised. The only ones that I care about are my sons. Everybody else, I don't give a shit. Whatever. I just want, move on with my life, get back with my sons, move on with their lives, and hopefully move this country and this world forward. I don't know. As Russell Brand says, I mean, I've done everything I can. I mean, I don't know. This hurdle's put me over me. You got to look at this. You got to look at that. I mean, I keep on. Okay, where am I supposed to look? Who needs to get a letter next? Who do I? And sometimes it just, I don't know, mention somebody's name and whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess I do. I mean, definitely somebody's been guiding me for the past 18 years. God, the weirdest frickin' thing when this started was that wolf at my door. Huge. Middle of the night. I was like, yeah, are you trying to tell me something? I know there's a wolf at my door. Would you please tell everybody that I know? Yeah.
Saying, if you're convicted and you're going to jail, knowing in your heart of hearts that you're not a rapist, how will you deal with that God wanted that for you? And it's like, wow, this is reality. I'm not scared of the truth. I love it. It's all that's real by definition. So what is it like when you
love it?
you lose touch with that person steps up? It's like, oh, that was always true.
Who's disappointed you the most?
Give us the top fives. Top fives.
Who's been most disappointing to you?
No one disappoints me.
Come on.
I'm not doing your mad little game of reducing everything to trivia and tittle-tattle, because some things, believe it or not, Piers, are not trivia and tittle-tattle. In fact, there's an argument for the direct contrary, that none of it is trivia and tittle-tattle, that you're continually in the moment interfacing with a really beautiful reality that has a veil laying across it, and all of us are sort of tangled and interacting with the veil. Oh man, I just sort of thought Terry Wogan and David Icke 1987 vibes. I don't want to do that stuff. I don't think that I'm especially important, or that I have any unique or novel insights. I've just had a really unusual life, and I've written this book. And the key thing about this book is becoming Christian is a consolidation of all the mad musings of a mind that was embedded in and wedded to the culture. I thought, wouldn't it be great to be famous? Wouldn't it be great to marry a pop star? Wouldn't it be great if you could sleep with endless women whenever you wanted to, consensually, one might say, given the nature of this current appearance.
Yes.
But at the end of it all, even though obviously you have to find God to get any of you that are clean and sober from drugs and alcohol, and you have to get clean, you have to find God, or some kind of God, to even cope with life without your former God that was drugs and alcohol. Coming to Christ is like you're exposed to a deep reality that is beautiful and available. And so it's not like always good, because I'm still like this morning, I was worried about coming on Piers Morgan. I'm even a bit worried now. I'm doing this on Piers Morgan. Will they use it? It's unsensitive, I suppose, by definition.
Every word we've said will appear.
Even the sort of the long pause on Isaiah.
That will all appear without.
Clip that up.
No. Everything will appear exactly. That's my promise to you now. There will not be a single second cut out of it.
What do you think your duty is here? Not with me as a
Me,
guest.
just to ask you questions.
No, not with me as a guest.
I'm going to leave it there. Yeah, because I wanted to get to these other... Oh, I don't think I'm going to get both this evening. Yeah, but... So, I hope... I don't know, I'll send this over to Andrew Brettler and say, here's something else you can ignore. Asshole. Because what I keep on, with the Prince Andrew, I was like, the feminists, they're afraid of me. Really, they are. I know. Oh, you got no likes. You got no subscribers. Nobody likes you. You have no money. You live in a shithole. You're a stupid cashier. Not so stupid. I'm not defined. This is what I mean. I saw that when the lawyer started with me in Madrid, and I told him, I was like, you really think that you're going to take away my mansion? You're going to take away, my clothes, my my Volkswagen Golf, my lovely 1989 Volkswagen Golf that everybody laughs at me with the Mercedes, and I'm like, yeah, well, mine's never in the shop. I was like, oh, it's like, and then it got demolished. I think my ex-husband did that because I was hoping to get back to Madrid and have it fixed up. I was going to get it all like renovated, and I lost it. Anyway, please. See, this is where we need to concentrate in the United States. Build cars that last. Bring back the Electrolux vacuum machine. Bring back the Whirlpool washing machine that didn't die. Give us some cars like the Volkswagen. I mean, come on, you guys. We used to make good cars. No, sorry. I think the Germans made better cars, but we can still do it. quality instead of quantity, please. Okay, so that's it. Won't go on anymore.